It is Locked On NBA Game Night for the night of Wednesday, May 14th. On today's show, Luke Kornet saved the Celtics and the Timberwolves knock out the Warriors. Where does Golden State go from here?
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night in 30 minutes. Wes Goldberg here with Tony East. However, you may be tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Jam-packed show for you today. The Warriors get bounced and face some tough decisions this offseason. Meanwhile, the Timberwolves make the Western Conference Finals for the second straight season. But before we get to all of that, let's start in Boston, where the Celtics beat the Knicks in their first game without Jayson Tatum to extend the series. Huge games from Jaylen Brown, from Derek White, but it was Luke Kornet who swung this one. Here's more from Locked On Celtics host John Corrales.
Every time you think the Celtics have it in the bag, they lose, and every time you count them out, they find a way to win. It was a big-time win by 25 here in Game 5 against the Knicks. Luke Kornet's the big story with 7 blocks off the bench, 5 in the third quarter where the Celtics broke it open. Kristaps Porzingis was benched after halftime. He was terrible, but the Celtics got 34 from Derek White. They got a near triple-double from Jaylen Brown. They played with great pace. They played with great force. They played with, you can call it desperation if you want. They held off the Knicks, broke it open in the second half, and it was pure Celtics basketball. And you live to fight another day. I know the whole Jayson Tatum thing made people think that the Celtics were going to just kind of pack it in, but that's not what the Celtics team does. They don't know what to do with prosperity, but they are great with their backs against the wall. And so it's on to Game 6.
So, Tony, not sure that I saw Luke Kornet morphing into prime Rudy Gobert in the second half in this one coming, but were you surprised by that? What was your big takeaway?
Yeah, yes. I hope everybody was. Not that Luke Kornet isn't good, like they play him every game. He's a fine player, but oh my God. And he made every shot he took. And it was like a twofold big thing for Boston. One is like one story alone is, oh wow, Luke Kornet was really good. Like garbage basket guy, great defense. And it especially helped that Cat was in foul trouble, not playing that well. So you could play a guy like Luke Kornet like that, even though the Celtics guard Cat with wings. They could keep Kornet on the floor. That's part one. Luke Kornet was very good and maybe kind of swung a game for the defending champions. Part two of this was like, John just said it, Porzingis was so bad. So bad. And everybody has talked about, rightly, that he's been this X factor for Boston the last couple of years. He missed a layup early. He was doing nothing on defense. Every Celtics player who played was a plus in the plus minus, except for Porzingis, who was minus 12 in 12 minutes. Like, he was awful bad. I don't know what this illness thing is or was or how it's still affecting him, but he has just been a shell of last year's guy in the playoffs this year. So they needed an answer to that. So it wasn't just that Kornet was good. It was like, thank God for the Celtics, we had a center who could actually give us anything tonight. I was like, are they going to go to Keita or Tillman? That's how bad Porzingis was, but it was the savior, Luke Kornet. I can't believe 4 minutes in, the only star player named was not by us, was by John. But that's what the Celtics story was tonight.
This was a story of the big men this entire game. So the game is tied at 59 at halftime. Karl-Anthony Towns was outplaying Kristaps Porzingis, but also getting himself into foul trouble. Mitchell Robinson was very good in the first half. And then Joe Mazzulla makes the smart decision to yank Porzingis, season on the line, down 3-1. No time for loyalty here. Luke Kornet was playing better. He starts the second half. We don't see Porzingis. And it turned out to be the right decision. And that decision flipped the game completely. And you combine that with Towns' foul trouble and just, again, the ticky-tack, nonsensical fouls, like 2 of them in the second half that just made no sense from Towns. And then Jalen Brunson's foul trouble also was a huge factor in this.
Came out of nowhere, by the way. 5 in like 8 minutes.
0 fouls for Jalen Brunson in the first half. Fouled out in the second, in basically a quarter and a half. Wild stuff from Brunson. And without all the foul trouble, the Knicks never really could get into a rhythm in the second half. And then you combine that with Luke Kornet, again, just losing his mind in the second, again, becoming prime Rudy Gobert in that second half. The key there was playing off of Josh Hart and planting himself in the paint and just being there. And for whatever reason, Tom Thibodeau, who I thought outcoached Joe Mazzulla for most of this series, got outcoached in that second half, and he just kept riding Josh Hart, who played a majority of the fourth quarter, if not all of it. I think I have that. I think I have that right. Josh Hart ends up playing almost 36 minutes in this game, and the stat line was fine. I know he had 24 points, 5 of 9 from three-point range, but all 9 of those three-point attempts were wide open, and they were not defending him at all. They were putting Kornet on him and having Kornet sag off of him, and that made things way more difficult for the rest of the Knicks. And I think that decision was a bad one, but I don't really know what else Tibbs is supposed to do, because you put Miles McBride out there, well, then Boston's going to target him defensively. And I don't really know what other options that they have, but the Josh Hart thing I thought was a real problem for them.
Yeah, they had to keep him in and on the rest of their starters besides Brunson until 2:34 to go, down 24 for some reason. Like, what? Everybody says it. It's like a chorus now. It's not original or interesting, but just like, why? What are we doing here? But yes, I agree. And like, that's been a Knicks thing for a long time. It's you and I said this in November. We're like, are they eventually just going to start Mitch and Cat together? Like, because if you're going to have the no spacing anyway, it's like, we know Tibbs loves Mitch Robinson. He's playing good this series. Maybe they'll go to that. But it's easy to guard Hart with a center. Not easy, but it's like palatable, and teams are willing to do it. And the Celtics have been basically the whole series. Tatum was guarding Cat very famously, like the entire game, until he got hurt in game 4. It's the smartest strategy for them. And the Knicks have very few real options. Their 8th guy's campaign, who plays like one TV timeout to the next and a half, and that's it. And then he doesn't show up again. Like, that's all they're willing to give him. It's very challenging with how few guys they trust when anyone is in foul trouble. And they had their best 2 players in foul trouble. Like, I agree with you that Mazzulla coached a better game, but also they like played very bad in the second half. And they actually, I thought, were unfortunate to be tied at halftime. Like, if Derek White wasn't hot early, this could have been over quick. Like, everybody thought, oh, they're going to come out with malaise post Tatum. And no, Derek White was amazing to start the game. They got tied by halftime and were way better the rest of the way. And Hart's a big part of that. I agree.
Game 6 is on Friday. Can the Celtics win this series? I mean, how much pressure is on the Knicks here? Game 6 on Friday in New York.
When is the last? I know this is a famous stat, and I should know better. The Knicks' last conference finals is like a long time ago, right?
Well, if we listen to our friend over at Locked On Knicks, it wasn't even in this. What do you use the word millennia? Let's go to him.
New York Knicks waste an opportunity to move on to their first Eastern Conference Finals this millennia as they lose to the Boston Celtics 127-102. I'm Gavin Shaw, the Locked On Knicks podcast. An incredibly frustrating game for the Knicks with a whole lot of blame to go around. It depends where you want to start. The starting wings of Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby combined to shoot 5 for 26. Karl-Anthony Towns just one more made field goal than free throws in another game where he was missing in action offensively. Jalen Brunson was brilliant in the first half, bailed the Knicks out of a lot of bad possessions to keep them in this game. He fouls out early fourth quarter after picking 5 fouls in the third quarter. Weirdly enough, my mind goes to Josh Hart, who statistically probably had the best game of any Knick, but his mere presence on the floor continues to be just an incredible challenge for this Knicks team to get around as the Celtics continue to put a big on him and then continue to just have that big be stationed near the rim. That's how Hart went 5 for 9 from 3. I would argue he should have gotten up even more. The Knicks probably should have involved him in more off-ball actions to get guys open shots, since the Celtics, again, were just completely unwilling to guard him. To compound that, he was guilty of giving up 2 threes and a 3-shot foul to Derek White in the third quarter when the Celtics made a big 15-3 run that separated them in this game. It was a theme across the board for the Knicks. Inability to play transition defense, inability to know their assignments at times in pick and pops, and just continually leaving the Celtics open for 3 after 3, which Boston was more than happy to take advantage of. The Knicks will have another chance to end this series on Friday night. Until then, tune into Locked On Knicks for more.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of pressure on the Knicks in this game 6. They've been outscored in this series by 35 points. And I know, obviously, there's still no Jayson Tatum, but Jaylen Brown and Derek White proved more than capable of running that offense. I actually kind of liked it more than what the offense looked like with Tatum at the reins, because it felt like it took a little bit more out of Jaylen Brown's personality on, where they're going to the rim and driving, kicking a little bit more, not settling for as many pull-up threes. I think there's a ton of pressure on New York.
There is, right? Like he said, 1999-2000 was the last time they made it. And they lost 2 closeout games last year against the Pacers in the second round, and now they have their first of maybe 3 chances to do it again. Like the rising tension is here. They already lost the game in the Garden. Like, and look, there's no Jayson Tatum. They still have an insanely good starting 5 if Porzingis ever returns to any sort of normal form. And as we've seen, they have the 6th man of the year. And
they could start Luke Kornet.
They could start Luke Kornet. Like, yeah, and like Sam Hauser's back, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh,
Yep.
Torrey Craig is like a serviceable button to push for like your 9th guy without Jayson Tatum. He barely played, but they went to him. Like, yeah, they're still really good. It's not going to be easy. Obviously, the favorites to win 1 of 2, but yeah, I agree. I mean, everyone would be. It's not good if the reigning champs lose in the second round, but like everybody would get it. You know, it sucks they blew 2 20-point leads. I mean, the Knicks have a huge opportunity. They stole 2 miracle games to start the series. They have to.
Well, they have to win one of the next 2, but it feels that crowd at Madison Square Garden on Friday night, that's going to be one of the craziest crowds in MSG history. It's going to be wild. Let's move to the Western Conference. The Timberwolves advance to the conference finals, and there's one thing that separates them from last season. We'll talk about it next year on Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Wayfair. The days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they have it all, and at prices that fit your budget. I love the mix of styles that they offer. Wayfair makes it super easy to find pieces that match your vibe without spending a fortune. The delivery is free and hassle-free, even for the big stuff. Whether you're entertaining guests or just relaxing solo, shop Wayfair to help you unwind. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online. This summer, get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Back here on Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. The best way to support the show. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Let's go to Minnesota, where the Timberwolves eliminated the Warriors to advance to their 2nd straight Western Conference Finals. Here's Locked On Wolves host Ben Beacon with more.
The Minnesota Timberwolves closed out the Golden State Warriors in Game 5 on Wednesday night, winning the series and heading to the conference finals for the 2nd consecutive year. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the daily Locked On Wolves podcast. And the Wolves dominated this game throughout. They had major turnover problems. They turned it over 20 times, which has been a problem throughout the series against Golden State. Of course, the Warriors have a great defense that forces a lot of turnovers, but Minnesota was sloppy with the basketball. However, they overcame it with fantastic ball movement, opportunistic running the floor in fast break opportunities. They finished at nearly 63% shooting from the floor. Minnesota did 42% on threes. They had 36 assists on 49 made baskets. Ant almost had a triple-double, 22, 12, and 7, and Julius Randle was fantastic once again, 29, 8, and 5. He shot 13 of 18 from the field as both the Timberwolves superstars propelled them to this 11-point win in a closeout game. The Wolves will now await the winner of the series between the Thunder and Nuggets, and will start the conference finals next week. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
2 questions for you, Tony. Is 22, 12, and 7 qualifies as almost a triple-double? And when he was talking about the 7, was he talking about the rebounds or the turnovers?
What is the almost number? I've seen some absurd triple-double watches where I'm like, that guy has 5 rebounds right now, guys. Like, it's not on triple-double watch.
I think
yet.
Officially 9 for the end of the game.
8 or 9. Yeah.
To me,
you can
9.
get 2. You can get 2 of something in like a minute, and that's not common. But like,
I'm talking final box score. If it's 8, I'm still not giving you the almost triple double. At the very end, final box score. If it's 9, I'll give you the almost.
If it's 8, I'll give you like a sniffed a triple double.
Ooh, sniffed is good.
Nose up. 9 is yeah. Ant was great, and the 12 assists is the number that stands out. And I forget who tweeted this or said it on the broadcast, but like, you know, it's been talked about all season that he would get trapped a lot, and he wasn't great with his decision making there. But he sees the same traps or coverages over and over. He's gonna figure it out, and he just did in this game. He's like, great, a lot of guys are coming to me. You score. They move the ball really well. The Wolves shot 36 for 47 on 2s in this game. That's insane. But like, they just picked apart the Warriors with this ball movement. They were 22 for 28 at one point. And it helps that Julius Randle's like, hey, oh yeah, if I'm just a number 2 option, I'm just way better. So Ant could just get off of it, and the Wolves could still score really well. Yeah, that's not close to a triple double, but 12 assists is a massive thing for him, and he continues to like up his passing and distributing just by making basic playoff reads. It's the second year in a row he's done this.
72 points in the paint for Minnesota.
Absurd.
Just slicing and dicing
is
that Golden
closeout
State
game
defense.
Rudy Gobert a thing now? Like what is going on?
Well, I thought Chris Finch and Anthony Edwards and Mike Conley made the great adjustment in this game of stretching Golden State's defense as much as they could. Instead of just setting those screens by the three-point line, they were setting them. Rudy Gobert would have a feet, maybe sometimes 2 feet in the Minnesota Timberwolves logo. And so what would happen is Looney would come out, try to trap or whatever, or Trace Jackson Davis or whatever center was out there for Golden State will come out there, try to trap and hedge on that screen and roll. And then he would have to go all the way back to the basket. And every single time Ant would go simple one pass, and then they would hit another pass, or Gobert would get it on the roll, or Julius Randle would get it on the roll, or whatever it was. And Golden State's bigs just couldn't cover that space. And
they barely played because they couldn't cover the space.
Right.
Yeah.
And Draymond Green was bad defensively in this game. He started to show his age in this one. I think the Timberwolves, look, no Steph Curry for Golden State, has to be said, but Minnesota earned it. They outplayed Golden State in this series. And the one thing that the Warriors had to do was, okay, can we just win one game, extend the series, and maybe get Steph back for game 6? Minnesota stepped on the throat. They didn't let them do it.
Yeah, we'll talk about Warriors' missed opportunity in our third segment, obviously. But yes, they got to be kicking themselves for both those home games, right? They could have gotten either one of those and then 3 days off or whatever it is after this to get Steph back. But alas, very happy for Mike Conley. One, because he's from Indy. Good for Indy guy Mike Conley. But he made a bunch of huge shots in this game. He's had 2 awesome playoffs for this Wolves team in a row. But like, we got to talk about Julius Randle. And Stan Van Gundy nailed it on the broadcast, I think, when he was talking about the difference between what he was asked to do for the Knicks and what he's asked to do now is enormous. And that part of his perception of his playoff performance came from those Knicks days. But he has done a very, very good job of being like, okay, how do I be a guy number 2? I don't need to initiate at all, hardly. I just need to be a connector who can finish plays. And you noticed this in the Lakers series. You noticed it in this one. Like, he has mastered in this playoffs when to be bowling ball Julius Randle. Here I come through the lane, bomb, scoring at the rim. And like, oh, let's shoot a jumper. Finesse. I've gotten good at these. And he's mastered that in a way that it's hard to put small guys on him, or just like Luka couldn't guard him. He's not small, but he's slow. And he's not a mismatch nightmare, but you get what I'm saying, where it's hard to put the right guy on him. And so he has just perfectly figured out how to be that guy. Awesome playoffs for Julius Randle, who was just tremendous in this game.
So I had like a like and don't like little thing queued up here for Minnesota. My like was Julius Randle. I think he's been sensational in these playoffs. He was sensational in this game. He is a matchup nightmare for these Warriors. Draymond Green can't defend him. Jimmy Butler can't defend him. They've tried putting they had Trace Jackson Davis on him to start the game. Did not work. They've tried Kevon Looney on him. Hasn't worked. They literally don't have an answer for Julius Randle. And you're so spot on about him leaning into and embracing that number 2 role. And he talked about it on the broadcast after the game in the sideline interview, talking about he's just basically here to support Anthony Edwards. I love how deferential he's been. And he just gives them something that they didn't have last year, which was the thing I was hinting at in the tease going into this segment, where you could debate the Julius Randle trade for whatever merits you want to debate it. But what they didn't have last year was somebody who can create offense and get a shot off without Anthony Edwards on the court last year. And Julius Randle can do that. He toggles that on when Anthony Edwards is off the court and he's on the court. And as soon as Ant comes back on the court, he's like, cool, I got you. I'm short roll guy. I'm bowling ball Julius Randle. I got you. Rolling to the basket, whatever I need to do. I'm in the paint. He just gives them that other shot creation element that they didn't have last year. And it opens things up. Jaden McDaniels now all of a sudden is just streaking through just open baseline cuts and getting easy shots that way. Your Nickeil Alexander-Walker, ditto. They have obviously added Dante DiVincenzo to the roster this year. So I really like this Minnesota team. And the way it started off clunky, but they've really figured out, Chris Finch gets a lot of credit for this, how to use all these parts. And they're back in the Western Conference Finals now because of it. The one thing I don't like, though, speaking of the Western Conference, They got to fix the turnovers. 18,
Oh
19,
my
and 20
gosh.
turnovers in the last 3
This
games.
they
will
should have been up
lose.
30.
They'll lose to Denver or Oklahoma City if they're
Yeah.
this sloppy with the ball. They'll lose.
It's like half the things they said on the broadcast was like, well, they're up 16. And I think Stan kept saying remotely close because of turnovers. It's only remotely close. It wasn't close. The Warriors couldn't score enough anyway. Yeah, like Randle, big part of that trade is him becoming the guy you just described, like can score in different ways with and on or off. If we're gonna finish up on the trade and that, Dante is really a good playoff player. And in this game, like he made 5 shots, he made half his threes. That's obviously important, but he was good at everything. Like the rebounding was good. His defense was awesome. He just provides this big jolt of energy. And
Bodied up Jimmy Butler a couple times.
Yeah. They showed they needed it last year. Like Conley's a good player. He's also old. Like you can only get so much of him in the playoffs. They needed the guys who could initiate in some way. Randall's been awesome at that. And DiVincenzo is just enough of a ball handler shooter kind of combo to give him a lot in moments with or without Ant. He was really good in this game. He was great in a lot of the postseason last year. Can we stop judging trades in like the 41st regular season game of the first season they happened? Like this could be the best like win-win trade we've ever seen with star teams if the Knicks win one more game. And everybody was like slamming the Wolves when Randall was hurt in January. Can we just shut up and like wait, please?
I agree. It's a great call. Sometimes it takes a little time to figure it out. And this Minnesota team is awesome now. That trade, they have 8 guys that they trust. Chris Finch plays the same 8 guys. You got the starting 5, DiVincenzo, Naz Reid, Alexander Walker coming off the bench. Mike Conley, I'm so glad you shouted him out. To me, I was worried about if he could survive against the Lakers, not so much against the Golden State Warriors, but even if Steph was there, maybe that would have been a concern. He's been awesome. He's been defending well. He's been hitting shots. And as long as he's doing that, he's going to be a core part of what they're doing there. But we will talk more about the Western Conference Finals once that series is set. But for now, the Warriors have an offseason to figure out. Did we see enough from these healthy Warriors to buy into them as a contender for next season? And what moves do they need to make this offseason? We'll talk about that next year on Locked On NBA Game Night. All right, let's talk Warriors here. So big offseason ahead for Golden State after losing to the Timberwolves. They did turn their season around after the Jimmy Butler trade, showed a lot of promise. Some people choose labeling them as contenders. I don't know if I ever went that far. I still picked Minnesota, even with a healthy Steph. But look, they turned their season around, and the Jimmy Butler trade is a big part of that. The biggest question now, to me, Tony, I don't know if you agree, is what happens with Jonathan Kuminga, who's going to be a restricted free agent this summer. The Warriors, they need like 2 starters, I think. Right? I feel you feel good about Steph, Draymond, and Jimmy Butler. The rest of the roster, there's some players that I like, but I'm not really sure where everything goes. Kevon Looney, Gary Payton II, those guys are unrestricted free agents. So the big piece here is Kuminga, and he played well in this series without Steph. I don't know. Steve Kerr clearly does not feel comfortable playing Kuminga big minutes, especially when Steph is healthy. So that's the big piece. What do you do with him? Do you bring him back and just try to keep making it work with him? Or do you negotiate some sort of sign and trade and go get a piece back that maybe fits a little bit better?
Okay, first of all, as it relates to the Warriors and their planning, if anyone ever asks to be again the most underrated player in the NBA, it's Steph. It just like they can't do anything without him. Even Jimmy Butler was hobbled, whatever, but like they can't score. They can't do anything. Steve Kerr's got to be so frustrated they didn't get this Pods game in Golden State. This series would still be going if they did. But that exactly speaks to what I feel like the trouble is for the Warriors, right? They have lots of interesting guys that are good at times, but they lack a lot of consistency. I mean, Podziemski's season was all over the place. He was terrible to start. He was good late. He was up and down in the playoffs. Kuminga was, when he played, up and down in the playoffs, but very revealing that he barely played. Guy Santos, like, is trustworthy, I guess, but not really. Quentin Post, like, got played off the floor. You know, Trace Jackson Davis, they started to be played 7 minutes. Like, they have lots of guys who are like, ooh, this is interesting and kind of good. And, like, they just don't trust them because they're so inconsistent. How do you turn that into a team of, like, reliable things? Who do you like? And you can tell with Kuminga being the big question, I agree with exactly how Steve Kerr feels about him from this playoffs. He barely played in the first round. And then even in this game, like, they need him. He was good. He played very well. They never played him and Guy Santos together, right? Like, that makes sense to me as a combo that would work, but they bring different things to the table. Steve Kerr likes different things about them. and he's just never been willing to experiment a lot with Kuminga when the Warriors are good, which to me means they have him in this box of like what he is, and what the Warriors are is different from that. Even though he played well in this game and played a lot, it almost was revealing to me in a way that like they just don't view him as a fit. And so how they can spin that into stuff that does fit or is at least somewhat reliable and consistent, that is to me the story of their offseason. Because clearly, look, they might. The other question is like, can they get good enough stuff to combat the aging out of their 3-star players? Because if Steph's worse next year, it doesn't matter what they do in the summer. But that's kind of all wrapped together. Why I think it'll be. They're one of my 3 or 4 most fascinating teams this summer.
The talent is undeniable with Kuminga, right? And he shows it in flashes. There's also real questions about his feel for the game, about his ability to defend and rebound at a high level consistently. And more importantly, he just doesn't play the right way to play with Steph. If you're the Warriors, you're built around Steph, and you need guys who could play with Steph, and they spend years mining the league, finding guys who just have a natural chemistry with Steph Curry or can develop this chemistry with Steph Curry. And Kuminga, like Buddy Hield did, like Moses Moody did a little bit.
Yes, agreed.
Kuminga has not done that. And it's not to say that he's not a good player. It's clear that he's not a good fit for this Warriors team. And so what do you do with that? Even going further, like you can't even, I think, re-sign him and then do what? Just do this, just keep doing this? Because now after the Jimmy Butler trade, you can't really play Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, and Draymond Green together. There's no spacing, even when Steph is on the court. Those lineups haven't worked. Steve Kerr has tried them. They haven't worked. So you kind of got to figure it out. That said, I think Kuminga would still have a ton of value on the open market. This would not be a James Wiseman situation where you're salary dumping him. This would be more of, hey, let's shop him around. He's a big wing with a lot of potential, a lot of upside here. The kind of play, like I think you would need to go find a center so that Draymond Green isn't starting at center next year. I think you have to go find a floor spacing-ish type of 5, or just a guy just a high-level starter who can play with Jimmy, Draymond, and Steph. That to me would be the thing that you
can they get Warriors Otto Porter back? Can they get Iguodala like that? That's the kind of guy they need. Reliable vet, good player, fits with Steph. Ideally can shoot threes and not look like an idiot doing so. It's very clear how the players that fit. They get off the ball quick. They make quick decisions. They're never thinking. They just get it, right? And that's not easy to do. There's a reason lots of players sink or swim with that Golden State team. And like Kyle Anderson seemed like the perfect Steve Kerr player. He did not fit at all. He's gone, right? It's fine. It's how it is. But that's a hard player to find. And it's like very specific for a sign and trade. And like, I don't know their apron situation. Can they even do sign and I'm not going to bother with that. Yeah. Like, it's just, it's a huge part of it. And like, what else can they do? They gave up a lot of not a lot, but they gave up assets to get Jimmy. Like, they don't have a lot of stuff to trade. It's a very tough spot to be. Not that it's not a good spot to be. They have Steph Curry on their team and Jimmy Butler on their team. If they can't trade Kuminga for real stuff, I think they should just try to just slam their head into the wall again and hope that he can improve, because I don't think that the alternative of just losing him and using that space on something else is better.
Do you get to the point where you start bringing Draymond off the bench? They experimented with it for like a game or two during the regular season. Yeah. It might be that point. Yeah, we might be at that point with Draymond, which would be okay. He's getting older. He's obviously lost a few steps. That might not be the worst.
Because it just it prevents them from playing their centers, which is like Draymond is much, much, much better than them. I'm not saying that's wrong. It's very limiting on your rotation and what kind of resources you're willing to invest in the rest of the team.
And if you're trying to reduce the wear and tear on Draymond, maybe bringing him off the bench, and it's just center, Jimmy, and Kuminga, and you could still stagger your rotation so that Steph and Draymond are on the court a bunch. Like, that might be the move if you're forced to bring Kuminga back. Real quick fake trade proposal before we get out of here.
Love it.
Would you do Jonathan Kuminga sign and trade to Washington for Jordan Poole and bring back Jordan Poole? Do you think Draymond would be psyched?
All-time hilarious trade that would be. Gosh, who else did not jive with the Warriors at all? Can they get anybody else in the door? Who just
Kelly Oubre in Philadelphia?
Oh my gosh, I forgot Tsunami Poppy even had a stint there. D'Lo, another bad fit of Warriors.
He's a free agent.
Free agent, yeah.
Go get him.
Double sign and trade. The Nets could actually use Kuminga. It's perfect.
Another D'Angelo Russell sign and trade. All right, that wraps up Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. For Tony East, I'm Wes Goldberg, and this has been Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks for hanging out with us.